softball, then you are going to love the Fastpitch TV show. We're bringing you more interviews, more videos, and more product reviews than anyone else on the planet. Sit back and get ready. Here's the Fastpitch TV show.
Hello, I'm your host Gary Leland, and this is the Fastpitch TV show. Now, if you've never been to my website, please take a look at fastpitch.tv. That's the home of the Fastpitch TV network and the place to find all my softball videos and all my softball blogs. It's probably the largest network of free softball videos and information on the internet. Now, I upload this show on the 1st and 15th of every month, but there's always something happening there, just about all the time, so please take a look at the site after you finish watching this episode. Now, I also want to tell you about the Fastpitch magazine for the Apple iPad. Now, new issues of the magazine come out the first week of every month, and we have a really great group of writers like Olympians Kat Osterman, Natasha Watley, and many, many more. If you have an iPad, you really need to visit fastpitchmagazine.com today and subscribe to the magazine. Now, this isn't a fun little magazine for kids. This is a serious coaching tool, and you are going to love it. Now, this week I bring you another session from Softball Con. If you, by some chance, are not familiar with Softball Con, then you probably don't watch this show on a regular basis. But if you're not familiar with Softball Con, you should check out their website at softballcon.net. It's a great clinic that's held in Louisville, Kentucky every January. Now, this week's clinic is by Todd Buckingham, the head coach of Saginaw Valley State, and is titled Pregame Hitting. Now, this is a long clinic, so I'm going to bring it to you in two parts. Let's watch part one now.
I was given the topic of pregame hitting. I think that's a very broad topic, and quite honestly, what I want to say could probably be summed up in the first two slides, okay? Because this is a very vital sentence, bringing practice to the game. And if you look at the next slide, there's a question. How do you hit in practice? This is a very, very important question because I want you to think about the difference between your practice environment and your game environment. If there really is a huge difference, then all you're really doing is setting your team up for failure. Okay? Because you have to do whatever you're doing in practice at the game, before the game. Because I am sure, a lot of you have been doing this a long time, and I'm not just throwing a huge gleaming nugget of wisdom at you when I say, you can't really change on game day the way they're going to play. You have to change that in practice. There is honestly very little technically and fundamentally that you can do on game day to make any kind of difference to what a kid is going to do. So what you really honestly have to do is think about, how do we hit in practice? Now, what I mean by that is, do what you do and how you do it in practice before the game. Now, here's what I mean. Do you, in practice, have timed hitting circuits? Do you allow, hey, we have a 15-minute thing here, or are you one of these individuals that's like, ladies, it's very open-ended. Whatever you need to get done at this station, then you do this. However you do it, it's not right for me, and I have absolutely no right to say this is what you should do. You know your team, not me. All I'm saying is you have to have consistency. What you do in practice, you need to do before the game, because your players need that consistency if you really want them to perform. Okay, consistency is the key when you're coaching athletes in general, but especially female athletes. I've coached male athletes at the high school level. I've coached male athletes at the college level. I've coached female athletes at the high school and college level. And I know, and I'm actually going to talk tomorrow on coaching the female athlete, I know one of the huge differences is that the female athlete appreciates, needs, and will function better with routine, consistency, that thought process of I know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. You know, guys are too dumb sometimes to even care or know. You know, women are very detail oriented, and I like that. And like I said, tomorrow when I'm having this talk, you're going to, if you get a chance to hear it, you're going to see even more that it really does help us as coaches because they already know what's going to happen and it helps us. But it also keeps us in check because we have to make sure we know what we're doing at all times, sort of thing. But they need that consistency in order to perform. Because let's think about it. For most players, that game time, that game day is very, you know, they get anxious, they get nervous, they have butterflies if they care. Now, I know there's high school coaches out here that are probably sitting there going, gosh, I only have 3 or 4 kids that really give a rip. You know, then you coach to those 3 or 4 kids and you try the hardest that you can to get those 3 or 4 kids to rub off on the 4 or 5 or 10 other ones you have. But don't ever for one moment dummy down what you want to do or sell yourself short as a coach because of the level or the particular players that you might have. Let's get that straight too. But for the most part, they're very nervous, they're very anxious, and let's be real, if you're trying to have an environment that's completely different before the game, they're not going to be able to perform the best that they can be. Let me give you an example. Because this is my 12th year as a collegiate head softball coach, okay? And I have learned lots of hard lessons, and I'm sure you all have too. And hopefully you will agree with me when you say you learn so much more from failures than you ever will from winning. Because at the end of the day, winning is kind of easy because it's really not us, it's the talent of the players that we have. The losing is really hard because as coaches, obviously you all don't want to lose. Or you wouldn't be sitting here giving up your Friday night listening to people talk. You don't want to lose. So every time you do lose, you beat yourself up. And you sit there and you analyze, oh my gosh, what can I do, blah, blah. Here's one of the easiest things you can do. Make sure that the environment that you have is consistent and is the same. So if you are a Bob Knight screaming type of coach in practice, then that's what you got to be in the game. If you are a very laid back, easy to get along with coach in practice, that's what you have to be in the game. They have to have that consistency. So back to my example, you know, I would like to think that I'm a very easygoing individual. I'm very driven and determined. I know what I want, but at the same time, I'm pretty easy to talk to. I'm not a screamer. I'm a teacher. So I would never ever scream at a kid in a game and this sort of thing, blah, blah, blah. But one of the first years of coaching, because I went straight from college, 1 year of high school, and then straight into a college job, because I just got really lucky. I took over like the world's worst D2 program in the history like it was a sucker's job, but like it got under my skin and I ran with it and loved it from that point. But any of us could have done it. So that first year, I had that mentality of what I had in high school, because what I had in high school was coaching boys. So I came in, and in practice, I was like, you know, hey, I'm just kind of laid back. I'm like, you know, goofing around with them, telling jokes beforehand, and, you know, we'd do some work. But in the games, I was very serious. I would get my lineup, and I would sit in the dugout, and I'm just like, you know, this is what we got to do. And it freaked them out. You know, it really throws them for a loop, because your players are going to look at you a lot more than you ever would think they would. And if you are the type of individual that's easy going and does not really scream and doesn't look like you get stressed in practice, but when you show up for the games, you're pale, you're very quiet. Ladies, I'm just focusing. You know, they're going to go, well, why is he focusing? Is he nervous? Why is he nervous? Are they better than us? Why are they better? We didn't prepare right? And you open this huge can of worms as far as doubt goes in their minds. So I know I'm just rambling, but the bottom line is, honest to God, whatever you do for pregame hitting, this really does sum it up. Here's what you got to do. Do what you do in practice. Now, the rest of what I'm going to show you is what we actually do. And because some of you might be going, oh, geez, I don't really feel like I have a good grasp of what I should be doing in practice. And that's where we're going to get for the rest of this presentation. But if you get nothing else, just make sure you understand your players cannot get better on game day. They get better in practice. Your game day mentality, mood, focus has to be the same that it is in practice. And then, again, if you hear my talk tomorrow, hopefully you can get a better grasp of what I believe that particular mode, mentality, and focus should be, because it's not the abrasive type. You know, today's athletes a little bit different than what it was back in the day. All right, so there's always two huge issues when it comes to pregame hitting. Okay? Because, yeah, I'm a college coach. Some of you might be travel ball coaches. Some of you might be high school coaches. And you're like, look, man, you know, what you say might work for you, but how's it going to work for me? Because there really are two huge issues when you get into warm-up: space and equipment. Because for us, you know, we're at the upper level Division II level. So, you know, our conference is considered like the SEC or the ACC of Division II. So every school we go to, you know, we have these nice cages on both sides, and nice bullpens on both sides, and nice hitting net areas. You know, and some of you are like, well, that's good for you. We ain't got jack. I understand. Okay? So I know that's a huge issue. Like, fine, I can have this nice plan of what I'm supposed to do or what I want to do, but what if we show up? What if it's a team you never played? You show up and you don't have hardly any room to warm up. You don't even have a cage, or you don't have this or that. And I understand that, okay? Equipment is another huge issue. My budget is very different from your all's budget. I feel that, I understand that, you know, so you can't go out and buy all the gadgets that I'm going to be talking about today. You might not be able to get this, and this. If you look at these two issues as roadblocks, you're not going to get anywhere, okay? Because, again, I don't think any of you will, because again, if you let roadblocks stand in your way, why are you wasting your Friday night? None of you, I truly believe, don't allow roadblocks to get in your way. Otherwise, why are you here? You know, you would not be wasting your Friday night trying to learn. So these are perceived roadblocks, easy to overcome if you have the desire and the creativity. Okay? So I'm here to tell you, regardless of what your players might want, you can do every single hitting, drill, pregame, warm-up, anything known to man or woman you can do with a wiffle ball. Okay, what's the big deal? Wiffle balls don't travel very far. Okay? So if you have a very limited space at, John Smith High School that you show up at, there's no cage, so we're going to do soft toss hitting out into a field, which I will get into in a minute because that's like one of the worst things you could possibly ever do for warm-up, in my opinion. That's all that matters. But if you're going to do that, you don't want to do it with hard balls because they're traveling into the stands and they're hitting the other team. Then anything that is on my list, anything that you could ever think of, can be done with a wiffle. So if you don't have the space and you don't have the money, I can't afford machine balls and all these hard balls to practice. You can go buy a dozen wiffle balls. You can go do a fundraiser for a couple of dozen wiffle balls. And I'll even tell you here in a minute how I think you can make those wiffle balls last longer. But just remember, any hitting drill can be done with wiffles. Now here's the hard part, is you have to make sure that you are realistic with yourself. Because I know my girls, because I used to coach at IU Southeast, I don't know if you guys know where that school is. That's how I got to be here. Like, now I'm at a D2 school in Michigan, but this is where I'm from, these are my roots, so I always come back and want to talk at these sort of things. And when I was at IUS, my girls, if we couldn't do front toss with hard balls where they could see the ball traveling, they just couldn't get in the right frame of mind. Oh, well, boo-hoo. Sometimes you don't have that luxury. So what you need to do is make sure that you have at least some hitting drills set up where they have to do everything with wiffles. That way, if you get to a game where you don't have the space, it's not like it's the first time in the world that you're asking them to do front toss or this tee or soft toss or something with a wiffle. So invest in wiffles. They're cheap, and that will really, really solve a lot of space and equipment issues. Okay? Be creative. Again, I know all of you want to win. You wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't. So I'm telling you, in my opinion, one of the keys to winning is being creative. Think outside of this little box that everyone says you're supposed to stay in and try things. If they don't work, you're not any worse off, because at least your girls see that you're trying to put forth an effort to be creative and get something done. So here's what I mean by creative. What we do to make our wiffle balls last is we take every wiffle ball, whether it's the golf ball, baseball, or softball size, and we wrap them in either electrical tape or duct tape. Now, not all the way, because it doesn't take a genius to figure out if you cover every single hole, they're going to travel a lot faster and farther. So if you're sitting there doing front toss and you continuously catch them in the face, it's not a fun thing. But that tape helps them last a lot longer. So again, if you're a very small budget where you're like, I can afford a dozen a year, tape them, okay? Use cones for tees. Like if you ever want to know, sometimes you go to these conventions and there's vendors set up and there's like 14,000 different tees, and you might have these questions like, what should we get? What's the best ones? We like the Tanner tees. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but they have it's a base, and it's a really sturdy metal, I'm just going to call it a stick. I know that's not the right thing. The T part screws in, and it's got a nice little rubber top. They're almost indestructible. That's what we use. Well, guess what? They're $60, $70 a piece. We can do that. Well, good for you. I know we can. Use a cone. Now, I'm not talking the little, agility cones, but okay, I don't know if this camera's rolling, but there's all kinds of cones out there in the world. Okay, I would never go, hey, make sure you go down and steal some. But sometimes people just aren't looking at I'm just kidding. But the cones, like the traffic cones, if you can ever get a hold of them, you would be amazed at the number of construction sites that would donate those sort of things from time to time. They get run over and they want to replace them. Well, instead of, too bad if it's got a crack on one side, you can tape that, and now you have a T. They'll donate those sort of things. Cones are very, very easy to use as keys. I saw one of my old coaching colleagues that would use a plunger. Okay, he had some sort of base. I'm sure all of you have seen, like the black, which is, I think, the worst tee in the world. But anyway, it's the black rubber tee that has the home plate as the base. And then, like, you can get them at Walmart or Target or whatever, and they have the thing that screws on. Okay, if you can get away from those, please do forever, because then when your players get to my level, they think that's where they're supposed to stand because that's the home plate, and then it's not because the contact points are all skewed. But anyway, he would use that, and then he would take a plunger and stick it in there, and then the cut part would be up here, and then the ball would sit there. So I was like, that's pretty darn cool, because he had to buy that tee at one point in time, but never had to replace the sleeve part that went in there. You know what? I thought that was pretty creative, so if your issue is equipment because of money, then don't let it be an issue. Be creative. Use dowel rods. That's what we do all the time. Yes, Nemo, and I don't know if there's any Nemo reps in here, he's a genius when it comes to underloading training. If you don't know what the Nemo bat looks like, it's great. It's like this wooden, glorified dowel rod, but then it's got a fatter end where the sweet spot is. They're pretty expensive. Well, guess what? I can go down to Lowe's, and I can get a dowel rod, and I can put grip tape or athletic tape if you have to on the end, and now you have a skinny device in which a kid really has to work that hand-eye coordination in order to successfully hit something on the plane of the ball. Now, you can't use that dowel rod for regular softballs. You can use them for wiffles, for golf ball wiffles, all those sort of things. We have a dowel rod for every single kid. Now, you might think, well, good for you. Hey, they're not that expensive, okay? If you want a cheap hitting tool, get a dowel rod for every kid, tape it up, and at the very first day you give it to them, that's their responsibility. They keep it in the bat bag, all those sort of things, because they know when we do, because we have these hitting drills that we call everydays, because those are things we do every day. They take that dowel rod and they have to use those for certain things. I don't have to keep track of them. It's up to them. There again, you might have 3 or 4 kids that care, and the other 10 might lose them. That's going to be on you to figure out how you want to do that. But I'm saying dowel rods, easy fix. Okay? Now, here's what we do. Okay? This is how we run our pregame thing. And it's really 2 key elements, intensity and efficiency. But guess what? I'm only saying that because that's also how we practice. We practice with intensity and we practice with efficiency. My biggest pet peeve in the world is to have kids standing around. I'm sure it's all of your alls too. So how do we get away from that? Well, I'll show you that in a minute. But we make sure everything's very intense and we use the most, we get the most out of our time. Here's how we do it. We time everything. Stopwatches are really easy to use. They're really cheap to buy. So we do all of our pregame things on a stopwatch. But we can get away with that because we do all of our practice things on a stopwatch. Okay, I coach in Michigan. 2 days ago it was 15 below zero. We're not getting outside anytime soon. Luckily it's a football school, so we have a really nice indoor facility. Has a full actual field in it. Now it is rubberized floor, but it's still room for a whole field. So we can conduct a regular full practice in there. So how we do it is we have these portable, and I'm sure, talk to your intramural departments, talk to your basketball teams, anything. They have these portable clocks. I just plug it in the wall and I put 15 minutes on the clock. I'm like, ladies, 15 minutes stretch and warm up. You got that? They got that. I put 25 minutes on the clock. Ladies, 25 minutes to do your arms throws, fundies, and everydays. Boom, you get that done. And then my practice plan, every single thing that I have is timed. We're going to do this for 5 minutes, this for 10. We got this hitting circuit that's going to take 30 minutes, 10 stations, 3 minutes each, boom, boom, boom. It's very, very easy to build that intensity and efficiency if you can time everything. Now when you're outside, in the summer or in the spring, you might have to have someone holding the stopwatch, because if we become stopwatch watchers as coaches, we kind of lose the ability to instruct and teach sort of thing. But surely to goodness you can get a manager or an assistant or your husband or wife or kid or something. But we time everything. Now, we have a routine. Now, we're talking about pregame hitting. We have a routine, but here's the key. We also have a plan B if something goes wrong. Okay? So, what could possibly go wrong as we're trying to all get to the same place for a game? Traffic, transportation. Like, we get to charter bus everything. I'm sure you guys, sometimes you have to take a school bus, or if you're a travel ball coach, you have to rely on mom and dad to get them to places. So, depending upon the level, there's a huge, huge opportunity for, holy crap, what if something goes wrong? And if you don't think that's when your players look at you, you're fooling yourself. Because, again, it's in the face of adversity in which we have to be, as coaches, very, very consistent as how we handle ourselves. Okay? So, here's the way to do it. Make sure in your mind, even if you never look at it, takes probably 20 minutes one day to write down a plan B and always carry it with you. Okay? So what we do for our plan B is, we time everything, and I'll show you that, and I'll show you exactly what we get to. But there are certain things that we have to do. There are certain things that if we have to, we'll cut. So if the bus gets late, then we'll cut this one. Or if this happens, then we'll cut this one. Make sure you are not setting yourself up for failure by having, I want to be consistent, I want to be organized, I want to do the same thing all the time. Because that's what that dude said my team needs. So the first time somebody's late, you're like, what do? Have a plan B, and make sure your girls understand, ladies, hey, we're still doing the same thing, but guess what? We're late. Don't panic. I'm confident in you, because you should be confident, because there's nothing you can do on game time to make them play differently. At least better. There's a lot you can do to make them play worse. There's nothing you can do to make them play better, so it's just coaxing them, convincing them, hey, it's okay, we got a plan, we're going to do this, this, and this. Have a plan B, okay? So, here's what we do. We arrive 90 minutes before the game. Now, I get so tickled especially when we're hosting, and a team shows up 2.5 hours before the game, or shows up 3 hours before the game, let alone 2 hours before the game. This is my philosophy. I am quite certain there are some of you sitting there that go, I show up 2 hours before the game, I don't see a problem in it. Cool. Do you. Okay, I'm telling you this is what we do, and I feel like it's very efficient. Okay? Because, let me shed another nugget of wisdom on you. The longer you have them there, you might think, well, the longer they're here, the more they can get acclimated and they can get more comfortable. That's not the way it works. In my experience, that's not the way it works. The longer they're there, the longer they have to get bored, to get distracted, to start communicating and getting on tangents and start these little, well, what'd you do last night? Well, I got prom coming up. Well, I got this or that. If you make sure you're there right on time and this is exactly what's going to happen, and they don't have all kinds of other time to BS, go out into the stands with mom and dad and go make sure they go to the bathroom 4 times or go to the snack bar to make sure that mom brings their Gatorade before they, you control that. You really do. So we arrive 90 minutes before the game because we have a plan and we try to be efficient with what we're doing. I tell the girls they got 10 minutes to get ready. If it takes you 11, we're not waiting. You're already behind. Guess what? If you're continuously behind, you're not going to start anymore. Now again, I have that luxury. You might not, but it's a culture that you have to develop. Believe it or not, you probably do have that luxury if you can start working on that culture. You might have to swallow a couple of losses because you have to make a point, but you got to make a point. So we give them 10 minutes to get ready. We take 15 minutes to warm up and stretch. And yes, we clock everything, okay? Now, I, again, have a luxury of having a strength and conditioning coach that has trained these girls 5 days a week, and they know how they're supposed to warm up and stretch. So it's very easy for them to get that done in 15 minutes. If you are the type of individual that plans your own warm up and stretch, and you're allowing it to go 20, 25, 30 minutes, I challenge you to cut that down. Not on game day, but in your practices. Start cutting that down, little by little by little. And there's a thought process out there that, well, if you cut down their warm-up and stretch time, you're opening avenues for them to get hurt because they're not getting proper warm-up and stretch. There again, I think that's an environment we can control. If you are just going, warm up, well, of course they might get hurt. You're not watching them. You're not helping them figure out what to do. You might not know what to do. Get on the internet, read a book, ask the football coach, ask the basketball coach. Take the time, because if there's one thing I've learned in 12 years is that these athletes will know what you invest in them, and they will start to really listen to you and respect you and work a lot harder for you if they think you've paid the price for them. Hey ladies, you show up for a practice one day and you have this brand new warm-up. What is this, coach? Hey, I got it at a clinic. I got it at a convention. I went and talked to yada, yada, yada. This is what they're doing. This is what the Olympic team's doing. This is what UCLA's doing. I went and talked to Coach Brugman. This is what U of L's doing. Ladies, you can work out like college kids. Let's go. And it's just the way you approach things, okay? So I challenge you, cut your warm-up time down if you're one of those 30-minute people. Now, depending upon your level, you might not have a choice as to what order you do things, because you get infield at this time, or you get such and such and yada yada. We kind of have a little bit of a luxury because at the Division II collegiate level, we don't take full warm-ups. You don't take an infield. You have lines, which is sort of a lot like travel ball. I watch some of these high school things, and they have like this full infield warm-up, and this. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying when you get to college, hopefully your kids don't expect that, because that's not what happens in college. You take lines. You have an infield line and an outfield line. Now, sometimes in playoffs, you get up to the regionals and the nationals, or if they play D1, oh yeah, they got infield time. But how many of us, it's a rhetorical question, but how many of us really have D1 players? Probably not many. Now, so back to this, we do 30 minutes of hitting all the time. We take 15 minutes of throwing and glove work. Now, if you were here for Coach Frost's talk, because I know her very well, we do a lot of the same type of glove work things. We call them fundies, and we do them every single day. So that's part of our pregame. The girls don't just stretch their arms and go out and throw. They throw with a purpose. They throw on the throw side. They do throw in progression. And then we do glove work, very specific fundamental things for innies, for outies, and for catchers, because it gets them comfortable. Doing that before the game is not going to make them better. But if they don't do it, it might make them worse, because they might not be comfortable when they get into the game. Okay, so it's all really just a mind trick. And then 20 minutes of fielding. That 20 minutes of fielding is that line stuff, whether you're one coach and you have to hit infield and outfield, or whether you have another coach that can help you and they're throwing drop steps and they're doing this and that where you're hitting infield, we take 20 minutes to do all that. You add that up, and it's 90 minutes, we're ready to go. So, since this is a pregame hitting talk, I just want to tell you and talk a little bit about our 30-minute hitting circuit. Before I get in there, any quick questions? Like I said, I like to talk a lot. Sometimes I talk fast, I ramble. We good? Cool. All right. So, our 30-minute hitting circuit consists of 10 3-minute stations. Because, again, we might have more equipment than you. We might have more players than you. Because we carry 24 players. I don't really want 24. That's a whole nother point. We'll get in, we can have that discussion. I took over a program, quick tangent. So, took over a program that historically stockpiles kids. When I got there, we had 32 kids. What kind of collegiate Division II program can survive with 32 kids? Now mind, we don't have JV. We don't have any of that. It was 32 kids. I'm like, are you flipping kidding me? How can you have 32 collegiate women not have drama, not want to kill each other? It's a tragedy. So now we're down 24. So anyway, we have 10 stations. So if you do the quick math, it's about 2 per. You might only have 12 kids, or you might have 14, or you might have 20, whatever. Do the math yourself, and I challenge you to keep all 10 of these, but if you find ones that work for you or don't work for you, then, generally speaking, don't let someone warm up at a station on their own. If you have 10 stations, and you only have 10 kids, then do these 5, and come over and do these 5. Or number them all in sequential order, and make sure they rotate in sequential order. But don't let someone warm up by themselves, because you got to have someone else holding them accountable.
Do you need a softball bat? Do you want to save $30? SoftballJunk.com is offering an additional $30 discount off the price of all non-sale softball bats on their website. That's right, $30. So the next time you buy a bat, go to SoftballJunk.com and enter the code FPTV30 during checkout, and wham! You just put a cool $30 in your pocket.
Welcome back. Now that last short clip, that was my daughter Amanda, and she was telling you about my website, softballjunk.com. Make sure you write down that code number, FPTV30, because anytime you buy a softball bat on my website, you can enter that code at checkout and save yourself $30 off the price of a softball bat. And you can use that code over and over and over. It's a great deal. You just need to remember the code, and that's FPTV30. This show was originally started to promote softballjunk.com, really. So if you enjoy this show at all, I ask you at least check out my website, softballjunk.com, the next time you're looking for softball equipment, bats, balls, whatever. And if I offer a competitive price, please buy from me and show your support for the show. It's a great way to support what I'm doing here. And also, if you have someone else, a friend who you know is getting ready to buy some equipment, please tell them about my site. Or if they're getting ready to buy a bat, tell them about the code, FPTV30. Now, I hope you enjoyed part 1 of Todd's clinic. I'll show you part 2 on the next episode, so please come back for that. Please tell your friends about Fastpitch TV. Now, if you have a Twitter account, go to fastpitch.tv/love and show us some love. You'll see what I mean. So until next time, this is Gary Leland saying goodbye, and thanks for watching.
This show is a member of the Fastpitch TV network. See all our shows and blogs at www.fastpitch.tv.